First, you must realize that you have no idea before you can know the idea. We scan across all the frequencies if we want to learn anything new. Let us begin.
What has physics done for me lately? Second more, the equation E is equal mc squared. We have now acquired a fateful power to alter and to destroy nature. That's like when you're in physics and you go to dream world saying, this is a physics excursion. Science, what is it all about? The whole of human history all falls in the dust of one stroke of a nail file. You can't really get to grips with evolution unless you realise what an enormous amount of time our own planet is only a tiny part of the vast cosmic tapestry, a starry fabric of worlds yet untold.
Did you cut to live footage of the Starship
10, yeah.
I still prefer our old rocket, to be honest. It sounds so much more
okay.
Wow.
The Saturn rockets, you like that idea. Okay, from the Apollo missions. Anyway, should I do the intro or we just go straight into the science?
Go on.
You tune into 4ZZZ and the show is No Idea with me, Max. We got Gabe, we got Peta. Let's do it. What are we doing for Weird Science?
Whoa!
Jesus.
We're right into it.
You didn't even play the... Wait, hang on. Are we actually doing Weird Science right now?
No,
we can't be doing that. That's crazy. I'm not telling you what I'm doing for Weird Science. That's not how I work.
Okay.
I'm absolutely telling you.
Yeah.
Max, I've got seabird poop science.
Oh, good.
Just coming clean with it.
Yeah,
what do you got?
I got weight loss. Peter's not telling me.
Mine's about weight loss too, just in seabirds.
Oh, mine's in rats.
What do you got,
Wow. Well, I've got some whales, I'll tell you that straight up. And then I've
whales.
got some stuff about, like, life expectancy.
Okay.
She's going to make that ocean related somehow.
I will.
Hit us up, Peter, with your secret weird science this week.
How would you defend yourself against an orca?
Oh. You can't,
With
can you?
my wit
With your wit?
and general charm.
Underwater? How well does your wit usually do underwater?
Your rapier wit. Okay.
Never failed me before. I've never been eaten by an orca to date.
Yes.
It's true. Have you met an orca to date?
Well,
They don't eat humans,
Interesting.
do they? There's no recorded instance where they've eaten a human.
There's no...
in the wild.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
in the wild. Also, there's none that they've eaten a human, but they have attacked humans, but only in captivity. So yes, none in the wild.
Or
We just had a subscriber.
In case you didn't know what that random screaming was, we have a subscriber. Woo! Someone who's fought an orca and bested them in the wild.
yes, it was Radiothon recently, and we usually play a baby harp seals cry when everyone subscribes. And our station manager came and sat in the studio for Radiothon and became our in-house baby harp.
And it went like this. I don't know which is better.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you a story about something that happened.
Okay.
And we'll get to exactly how we can defend ourselves against orcas. So this happened at Western Australia's Bremer Canyon, which is a renowned hotspot for marine megafauna like whales, which is very exciting. And essentially there was this whale watching tour boat looking for megafauna. They have a marine biologist working on board. So there were a lot of witnesses, tourists, people who were working there, the marine biologist. And the boat was following a known pod of orcas for what they called a, quote, solid 3 hours. So this is a long tour.
Another subscriber.
People love orcas.
Thank you for subscribing.
People love orcas. I cannot stress how much people love orcas. And so essentially they were like following them for these 3 hours while the pod was clearly chasing something under the water. So they were chasing the pod who was chasing something. They were like, oh, something's going on. And to just make sure everyone's aware, orcas are like known to be the ocean's apex of apex predators. They're incredible. They take down prey like blue whales and, great white sharks, all sorts of stuff. They're just like one of the best predators on earth. They have truly mastered the craft. Besides us, maybe. And so the matriarch of the orca pod,
How do they
named
go with
Cookie.
what about a crocodile? How would they go with them?
Oh, great question. I'd hedge my bets on the orcas just because they can work together, whereas crocodiles are kept by lizard brain.
Yeah, true.
You know?
Yeah. They can
Orcas
work
are much
around it.
smarter. I think that's one of their major things, similar to us. So the matriarch of the pod, called Cookie, was leading this chase. And then at some point, she zoomed ahead and then stopped and waited for the rest of the pod to catch up. And that was when the tour boat people could finally see what the orcas were chasing, a pod of sperm whales.
Really?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this is, people know, by the way, that orcas do like sperm whales, but attacks are kind of rare because sperm whales are really hard to find. So seeing an attack on a pod of sperm whales from orcas is like a one-in-a-lifetime thing to see anyway.
Yeah.
And so as the whales regrouped, so the whales sort of like clocked the orcas and they were like, oh crap, this is bad. And so they regrouped and they sort of like form this formation, which is called a rosette, which is where their tails are facing outwards and they protect their calves in the center because there were a couple of calves with them, little babies.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, they weren't little, obviously,
circling
but
the
babies.
wagons, if you will.
Sure, yeah, they kind of look like a wheel. But then while they're doing this, Cookie suddenly came flying through the water like a rocket towards them all. Yeah, so they're in their little rosette. And sperm whales, can I be clear, are apex predators themselves. They're the largest toothed whales. They have teeth, not the baleen. And so, like, it's not something you really want to attack. But orcas, like I said, apex of apex predators. They don't care. They will attack anything. And they're quite like sperm whales from what I know because of their livers. They will, like, rip out their tongues and their livers.
And they go for the calves of these big whales.
They'd go for the calves, yeah, absolutely. That's why they're protecting the calves. And so essentially, these sperm whales form their rosette with their tails facing outwards, calves in the center. And then the orcas are repeating charges at them. So just like going, it's hard, like mine would be taking a run at them, but obviously they're not running, but they do like have these massive bursts of acceleration going straight at the whales. They had their protective circle. They would like flick their tails. They weren't getting too close. And then all of a sudden, as an orca was rushing towards them, an orca called Wonks, a dark red bubble of fluid rose to the surface and covered Wonks.
Really?
Dark red bubble of fluid.
So they thought this was blood from an orca bite at the time, because you would. There's a fight between orcas and sperm whales. You'd think there was blood. But when they looked back at the footage, it was actually poo.
Oh.
Feces. Which means we all have poo stories today.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
The sperm whales pooed on the orcas.
Yes.
It's red because of their squid diet, by the way. That's why it's a big red fluid. And as Wonks got covered in sperm whale feces, he sped away very quickly.
Yeah.
Just like immediately left.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Then another orca came at them called Shredder. And Shredder was seen, as Shredder approached, the exact same sperm whale pooed again on command onto Shredder. And Shredder swam directly into what the boat people called the Poonado. Fantastic.
Yes.
And apparently was in visible distress, like immediately left and was like slapping her tail, was upset by this. And then soon after the Poonado, the orcas regrouped and left.
Really?
Yeah, not about that. That's not worth it.
Another subscriber.
People love orcas. People love poo.
People do love poo. We've got another poo story coming up.
So this is like, this blew my mind. Also, I want to be clear, this happened May last year and I didn't hear about it. So I apologize for not reporting on this last year when it happened, because that's crazy. This is called, by the way, it's a known behavior, defensive defecation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Max is very familiar.
Clearly works. I mean, I also would not like to be covered in a sperm whale's poo.
No.
But it is interesting that these orcas were like, nah, man, that's way too much. That's way too much. I am getting out of here. Like, that's gross. I just think it's fantastic. And also, there was clear, like, aim and direction with the pooping. So it's clearly something they're, like, good at. Just on command, aimed pooping. So, yeah, the whole thing was, like, it sort of challenged this idea that sperm whales are helpless against orcas. Clearly, they have behavioral tools and strategies that sort of, like, as a cooperative, that reduce the success of orca predation. For ecologists, it's a big deal because it's fun to look at, and then also it shows the importance of social bonds, behavioral flexibility, like learning different defense strategies against the apex of apex predators. But yeah, they think this is the first direct documentation of defensive defecation against orcas.
Do the ecologists say anything about recommending what humans do in the face of orcas?
Well, that's what I was
give
going
it
to
a crack?
get to. I don't know if there's a human alive that could defensively defecate. Like
certainly
on
not
command.
In something that the whale watching boat would call a tornado or poo.
No, and nothing I think that would be described. I think people do it maybe on accident, maybe not on purpose. I think it's an accident. If you do happen to create a small poonado or defensively defecate, Maybe that's what it is when people say, oh, I'm scared, I pooped my pants. Maybe we're defensively defecating and we don't know it.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
If
But it's not very
anyone's
aimed.
genuinely done this before, I want to hear about it. 0420626733.
Doesn't have to be an
It's
orca,
our
by the way.
text
That's
line.
quite rare.
Oh,
You could do any marine animal.
defensive situation.
Yeah,
I want to hear about
Yeah,
it.
did you poop and defend yourself against predation?
These New World monkeys can do 3 musical octaves. Now, I'm going to play you the call again so you can listen to the flipping around the frequencies. And now I want to play you the sound that the researchers so generously provided of the slowed down version of this monkey yodeling so you can really
great.
hear the differences of the switch between. You want to hear this?
That's just you getting up in the morning going,
Wrong button.
you tune into 4ZZZ in the show It's No Idea with me, Max. We've got Issy in the room,
Hello.
Peta, and Gabe.
Hello? That's what?
What do you got for us, Gabe?
I'm saying hi to Izzy. I've got for you. We're not feeling great about ourselves, are we? This morning we've got.
I'm feeling
We've accidentally
fantastic.
brought a lot of poop science to the table. And I don't know if it's doing us wonders.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into
I think
this.
you're the only one who disagrees with this. We got 3 subscribers in the first segment. People like poop.
This is true. One of the most successful segments to date. Okay. So some biologists have found that seabirds deliberately lose 5% of their body mass every hour. To contextualize that,
Damn.
I'm about 90 kilos. So for me to lose 5% of my body mass every hour would be 4.5 kilos per hour.
I thought you were only 3 feet tall, though.
As a 3 foot tall guy, 90 kilos. That's what I'm sitting at.
Yeah,
get
you got to lose quite a bit.
You get 30 kilos per foot. So this comes to us from the University of Tokyo. Can I get a QS ranking?
Could be high. 47.
Or University of Tokyo. Let's go 33.
Yeah, I'm thinking
pretty
44.
36.
Oh, Izzy, you're back on.
I am.
So these researchers mounted cameras to the bellies of birds called streaked shearwaters as
I
they
like
flew
shearwaters.
around the open ocean near an island on Japan's eastern coast. The shearwater is a very standard-looking there's a lot of different types of them, but shearwaters are very standard seabirds. These ones have sort of a very dark brown body on the top of their wings, and then they've got this grey head that sort of extends down their
Quite
neck
pointy
as well.
wings, I think, shearwaters. in
Yeah,
general.
long
They're like,
pointy wings.
seagulls have a bit fatter wings. These ones are a bit pointy.
They do look a bit seagull-y, yeah, like a sort of sleeker seagull. Yeah.
If seagulls were hotter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seagulls. Yeah, I think that's what we need.
So these cameras,
Yeah. Hey, I mean, although the seagulls do have the really sick eyeliner.
yeah.
Like, you know, when they're like screaming at the ground, they kind of do like that. They kind of look like they're
They
being
look
dramatic.
metal as hell, yeah.
Yeah.
The cameras they were using are about the size of an eraser, and so they stuck them on facing backwards to the belly of 15 streaked shearwaters. And what they were planning on studying wasn't anything to do with defecation. What they were planning on studying was how these seabirds run across the surface of the water to help them take flight after landing or feeding.
And do they have to look backwards for that? Surely you wanna look at the legs.
To look at the, you're right, which is
Oh,
backwards
those cameras
from
in
where
front of the
belly is.
legs.
Yeah.
I see.
But then they started noticing something else, which was, to quote the lead researcher directly, while watching the video, I was surprised that they dropped feces very frequently. I thought it was funny at first, but it turned out to be more interesting and important for marine ecology. So like you said, Peter, they have these very long and narrow wings, which is good for gliding, not good for flapping. So to take off after they land on the water or feed by diving into the water, it's pretty exhausting and energy intensive for them to get up onto the wings. So that's why they were looking at that running to see if, maybe that's how they help themselves get up into the air. And then they realized this other thing was going on. So they watched 36 hours of these birds flying around.
And what percentage of those hours was pooping?
During that time, they counted the birds excreting 195 times. On average,
Wow.
that was one bird poop every 5 minutes or so.
But per bird? Damn.
One per 5 minutes of flight. And they don't know why it's at that rhythm, but if you add it up, that's about 30 grams every hour, which is 5% of their
Holy
body mass.
Crap, that's so... It's also just like a task, isn't it?
It's a lot. Yeah, it
You
is.
need to go to the bathroom every hour.
But for so many birds, especially for these seabirds, which spend pretty much their entire life on the wing, efficiency is everything to be able to minimize the amount of energy they're putting in. So there's no point having this stuff sitting in your gut. So they've evolved to just expel any excess weight.
As soon as it's there.
Pretty much as soon as it's there. So anything that can make you lighter and reduce the cost of flying is really good. And they do say that there's more to this than just some weird defecation science. There's interesting ecology at play here, because when large amounts of bird droppings build up on land, like on an island nesting site where these birds are from, it builds up in something that we call guano. And that guano, it enriches soil on land. It fertilizes nearby waters when it sort of filters down with nitrogen and phosphorus. And we've covered stories about how it interacts with the ecology and completely changes like
Poop is
reef
important,
ecosystems.
basically.
It's a really important source of nutrients for a lot of coastal or marine environments that are close to land. But beyond that, out in the open ocean, the role of these bird droppings in bringing nutrients out into big blue waters is kind of unknown. There's hundreds of millions of seabirds out in the world, and if they're all pooping every 5 minutes or around that sort of frequency,
that would be a lot of poop.
While on the wing,
nutrients.
this could actually be a substantial global source of nutrients for marine life, like plankton, which then go on and feed more of the food chain, especially for the resources like nitrogen and phosphorus, which are really hard to come by through other means.
Phytoplankton need those.
So what they also found was that they only ever defecated while flying. They were never doing it.
Have we lost you?
Oh, have we lost? Guess what?
Oh, we lost you.
We'll never know.
God.
We'll never know.
That's it. Gabe's still
We've
talking.
just got a bit of Gabe still going. We can't hear him.
Yeah, okay.
I guess we'll never know. Shall we cut to a short intermission and we'll keep the listeners suspended for that one?
You're tuning into Fortune.
Get the ramifications of your actions back. That's what you get for cutting everyone else off.
You're tuning into 4ZZZ and the show is No Idea. You're tuning into 4ZZZ and the show is No Idea with me, Max. We've got Issy.
Hello.
We've got Peta. Gabe.
Yes.
Our favourite part of community radio faults are the ones that we can't figure out after. So probably will happen again at some point in the future. Yes, what did I get to? 5% of their body mass every hour is what we landed on, I think.
Yeah.
And then, so, yeah, this is, it could be a pretty important bit of marine ecology going on here because we were talking about guano, when large amounts of bird droppings build up, it's called guano. It happens on islands around the world and coastal environments around the world, including the island that these birds in Japan nest on. And that enriches the soil on the land. It also fertilizes waters nearby the land. Beyond that, though, they don't know much. So the open ocean, the role of the bird droppings have in bringing nutrients out into the big blue is kind of an unknown. So
Which is famously a nutrient desert, by the way.
Yes.
Like,
so,
we know this.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's hundreds of millions of seabirds worldwide. So globally, if hundreds of millions of seabirds are dumping 5% or rough around then of their body weight every hour on the wing, that's a significant amount of nitrogen and phosphorus and all these other nutrients going out and feeding things like plankton that can then go on and feed more of the food chain. What they also found, though, is that only one of the 195 excretion events, as they call them, happened when the birds were floating in the water. The rest only happened when they were at wing.
Which is so weird.
Yeah.
That is so weird because you were the one who told me, I think it was you, who told me that if a bird is flying, I don't need to be worried about them pooping because it would like throw off their flight or something. So I've been wandering around totally like scot-free, like worry-free, aimlessly, like la-di-da, thinking I'm all good. But I could get pooped on at any minute.
Absolutely good. They did find, to be fair, most of the birds did have their first excretion event within 30 seconds of takeoff. They then just added another one every 4 to 10 minutes after that. And so they say they're not sure why it only happens at wings. They say it could be protecting at wing. It could be that they're stopping infections by getting on themselves and they're floating around in it. It could be because it could attract predators with the scent of it. It could be some sort of just weird exertion that or like just uncomfortable for the birds to do. They're not sure why.
Or it is just that they want to get rid of extra weight as soon as they can.
Yeah. So
can I ask a question though?
You can.
Because I always thought, like I think you told me, that if they were getting rid of 5% of their body weight in one go and they're flying already, wouldn't that just make them suddenly go like up in the air?
You think it'd be an immediate effect?
Would they?
I don't know. I think
If you
it's just
drop
less.
some weight, like if you're flying
I'm
and
sure
you
they
drop
can
something.
just slightly alter
Yeah,
their
they
wings,
compensate
just
pretty
pushing
easily.
a little bit less energy into pushing against the wind or something. But because they spend most of the time gliding, not flapping. They want to find out how big of an effect this could be happening on the ecosystem. So their next plan is to get cameras and temperature sensors with longer battery life, combine it with GPS, map these birds out, map where the bird poop is dropping in large amounts, and then go in and try and investigate what sort of role this might be having in feeding these marine food webs.
Cool,
Hell yeah.
That's what I got.
Part 3 of this. So mine's also about weight loss. It's about weight loss intervention. Researchers from Sichuan University in China, QS ranking.
114.
Yeah, I was thinking 130.
Yeah.
300.
Yeah,
I'm going to cast a wide net.
It's 324, yeah.
Ow!
They have developed edible microbeads that bind to fats in the gastrointestinal tract. Preliminary results on rats fed high-fat diets along with these edible microbeads shows that this new approach to weight loss may prove to be safer and more accessible than pharmaceuticals or surgery.
Is this like eating those things that you put in vases? Because that would also stop you from being hungry. Don't do it though. Oh my god, that's not
Like
that's
glass
not an
beads?
instruction. You can just die. No, you know the ones that you like put in water and then they get really big.
Oh, really?
Or like Orbeez or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
I don't think those
They're
are
the ones
these.
that expand.
That's what I'm imagining is like
Yeah.
someone eating those and then it just like getting stuck in their system and then being like, well, I'm not hungry now.
Anyway, to demonstrate, the researchers placed rats into 3 groups, 8 in each group. Those which were fed a high diet, 60% fats with a diet, and then with or without microbeads, so that's 2 groups. And then the control, which was just fed a normal diet, which consisted of about 10% fat instead of 60% fat. And this was done over 30 days. The result, rats fed the high-fat diet enriched with fat-grabbing microbeads exhibited a loss of 17% of their total body weight, while rats in the other groups did not lose any weight. They also had reduced adipose tissue and less liver damage compared to rats fed the high-fat diet and normal diets without the microbeads. They excreted more fat in their feces compared to rats not given microbeads. The extra fat in the rat's feces had no apparent ill effects on the animal's health. Additionally, the 8 rats on the high-fat diets that consumed microbeads showed similar intestinal fat excretion, but without the gastrointestinal side effects. The researchers observed with a 4th group of rats they treated with a fat loss drug. So yeah, the researchers envisaged that their flavourless microbeads could easily be introduced into everyday diets. For example, the microbeads could be made into small tapioca balls and added to
Have them with bubble tea.
yes, added to bubble tea or desserts. The team.
I'm still nervous about this.
This sounds crazy.
I still just feel like eating beads of any kind seems like a really bad idea, but maybe they'll convince me with human trials. I don't know.
They're made from green tea polyphenols and vitamin E. So yeah, and then
That seems much more edible. I was imagining like plastic microbeads.
and then they coat them in a seaweed, a natural polymer.
Oh, well, that sounds delicious.
yeah. Okay.
They are just little. They do just look like little white
Yeah.
tapioca balls.
Yeah.
As the rats are just
Interesting.
nibbling away at.
Well, yeah. Is there any like risk of eating them as a human if they're made out of things we eat already?
You would
How about
think
we let
not.
the
Skip
scientists
to
just
human trials. Let's go.
They started some human trials in their West China hospital in Sichuan University.
Ooh.
They anticipate that preliminary data may become available within the next year, Peter. So, job done.
Very interesting.
Wow, that's so soon.
Yeah.
Max, a flamingo's on the list.
No, not yet, but they got a wonderful plumage, I've been told.
Sorry, They're not on the list of birds you know, but you're aware that they've got a lovely plumage. Vaguely aware
Maybe
of
this is what
birds.
conversations were like in ye old England in like the 1700s. I've heard tale of these flamingos and their flamboyant
Tell me
plumage.
about this black swan you found in WA. You tune into 4ZZZ, and this show is No Idea with me, Max. We got Issy, we got Gabe, and we've got our friendly neighbourhood marine scientist, Peta.
That's me. Okay, so I've been very lucky to live on or near the ocean for a large portion of my life. That's how I got interested in marine science. I fish in my backyard. It was amazing. And it turns out might be good for my long-term well-being because some researchers in the US have looked into whether living by a major water source has any effect on your, not your health, your length of life.
Length of life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So this comes to us from Ohio State University. QS ranking, please.
88.
80.
90.
It's 208. Good luck,
I thought we
everybody.
dropped out again.
No, sorry, I was waiting for Max. He just decided not to say
I
anything.
said 88.
Oh, my apologies, Max. Yeah, none of you were right. So essentially, there have been prior studies that linked living near water or blue space to better health metrics like physical activity, lower obesity, improved heart health. But they wanted to look and see if proximity to large bodies of water correlated with differences in life expectancy across the US, something that had not been done at the national level comprehensively.
Right.
Now, I say
What do you
large-
call them in the US? Globally, the areas with high life expectancy we call blue zones. Sort of the regions of the world that seem to have beyond average life expectancy, which some recent research has pointed to may actually be more correlated to poor birth certificate records.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
What do you call it in the US?
Can we call it the blue couch zone in that they think it's blue, but it's actually very grey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cool. That's a joke for anyone who saw that TikTok. There's basically a lady thought her couch was blue and it was the greyest couch you've ever seen. Turns out she was colorblind.
We can call it grey
Blue.
zones.
So it's the grey couch zone of the US. Now, I'm saying large bodies of water. Why am I not saying the ocean?
Well, there's other bodies of water. There's lakes.
Yes.
You're talking about lakes?
Because lakes exist, and in a very big way in the US. To be honest, lakes aren't really my thing. I'm just going to get this out there. I feel uncomfortable about lakes. They just sort of freak me out. I don't love them. Anyway, moving on. So, what did they do? They compiled the life expectancy and demographic data for more than 66,000 census tracts across the continental US from 2015 to 2019. So, a couple of years of census data. And then they identified census responses proximity to water bodies using the National Hydrography data set. So they called coastal tracts, which so people who responded to the survey who lived within 30 miles of an ocean or gulf, so marine, and then inland water tracts was within 3 miles of an inland water. So then they also looked at whether they were urban or rural, and then they used some basically they did statistics to figure out some stuff, and then they adjusted for some other things. Now, when we're talking about these sort of massive, wide-scale things about whether you live longer using census data, what are some important things that we need to check?
Like how rich you are.
A big one.
Rich also means longer life, and rich people will live closer to the ocean. Seafood intake, omega-3 intake is probably going to be higher, closer to the ocean. You could be in cleaner environments, cleaner air, so you need to monitor air quality. Like there's all sorts of
There's lots
different
of stuff.
things that could
Yeah.
be
So-
going on.
They looked at socioeconomic factors like income, poverty rates, unemployment, demographic factors like racial or ethnic composition, age distribution, sex
Yep.
ratio. They looked at the prevalence of obesity and smoking rates in the areas. They also looked at various environmental factors, so air quality, specifically PM 2.5 exposure, which is a common particulate matter in the air.
Yep.
Land surface temperature, so the daytime, max, min, annual mean, things like that. Frequency of hot days and drought exposure, and also whether the area was classified as urban or rural. So lots of different things they were looking at. Now, the thing they found, the key statistic, is that coastal residents, and I remind you that's within 30 miles of an ocean or a gulf, had an average life expectancy greater than 80 years, roughly 1 year longer than the national average of 79 years.
1 year.
So you get a year long, which is actually quite a lot. You can get a lot done in the year, especially if you're retired, so that's pretty nice. But the thing I actually liked most about this study was that urban residents near inland waters had shorter lives. They had, on average, 1 year
Those
less in
lakes
their
again.
life at 78 years. Those lakes are going to get you, man. I was right. Lakes do have bad vibes. It's just like, I don't know. Lakes are weird, and I think this confirms it. Weirdly, they did say that if you were rural and you were near water, they offered some benefits, but they think it might be more because you were rural and less crowded. Like rural proximity to inshore water. They were like, mainly
okay,
as like urban near lakes is bad, rural near lakes is fine, apparently. Now, although they did try to control for other factors, their main thought is actually that the benefits are not, just from the sea itself, like the sea breeze gives you life. It is a mixture of the factors. That's what they think. So they think advantages for coastal dwellers likely come from milder temperatures, fewer extreme hot days, better air quality, more recreational opportunities, higher incomes and transportation access.
Yeah.
And I can say, as someone who grew up on the Gold Coast, I actually think the point about recreational opportunities is really good, because on the Gold Coast, the beach is a free-for-all. Everyone walks up and down the beach every morning. Anyone, everyone. It was like a thing that you'd just see loads of people doing. And it's like an open area to have a nice long walk and breathe and relax. So I do think that is something that is important, but we can't also turn away from the fact that if you have a higher income, you can afford a house near the
Classic
beach.
observational study. It will be often gets reported as living near the beach increases your life by a year. The actual stats show if you are someone who lives near ocean, you are
Probably have things that will help you live a year longer.
maybe not related to the ocean or caused by the ocean,
Yeah.
but related, like wealth, like a propensity to do more exercise anyway because you want to be near the ocean to swim or go to the beach or whatever it is.
Well, it's access.
Yeah.
Access and
Yeah.
stuff. The interesting thing was the inland urban blue space, they think the disadvantages might be driven by poorer air quality and more heat exposure, higher flood risk, and pollution and lack of safe spaces for physical activity, which I thought was interesting because lake beaches are actually quite a lot smaller. Most lake beaches are very narrow, so maybe having an ocean beach gives you a lot more area for recreation. But this was the first comprehensive US study evaluating the different types of blue space in relation to longevity. One other thing that they didn't look at that I'm interested in is how long people were in the coastal region for. Right? Because it doesn't matter if you die a year later in the coastal region if you only moved there 4 years ago to retire, right? It matters how long you've been there. I grew up by the coast, but I live in a city now. How much of a benefit do I get? Do I get 1 month, 2 months? Like, where's my line of things that the ocean's given me? And they are planning on doing longitudinal or like over time studies in the future, but that would be an incredibly large project. And like we've talked about, I think it could end up with just being like, hey, if you have money and time, you might live longer, which is like, yeah, obviously, especially in the US with their healthcare issues. So like that kind of makes sense to me. They do think it's good for urban planning, and they think that, urban planners should consider that not all blue spaces are alike, but they still should have blue spaces and how to use them and where to put them if you're going to start making fake lakes like Canberra, I guess. And yeah, it sort of highlights yet again about how all these different factors interact, and it's not one thing that'll help you live a longer life. It's having access to a load of different things. But I like to think it's the sea.
I imagine that doesn't include the South Bank beach that we have.
It definitely doesn't. As someone who's been there many times, I think the minutes I've spent there have shaved months off my life.
It's no secret that the MotoRap is a somewhat divisive segment.
Yes, within the team.
Yeah, but
One person, me, does not like it.
But it does tick the box, the STEM box, and like science.
Does it?
Yes.
Where?
Science,
When do we talk about it?
Science, technology, engineering, and motorsport.
And when do we... Oh, right. I see, we've changed the acronym.
STEM.
You got me right before I riled up.
Okay, it's time for the best part of the show. Loosely defined as science, yeah, you already know. Everybody listens to 4ZZZ just to hear us talking about what Butters just did. Subscriptions just keep rolling like the tires on a car. But something tells me that our science careers won't go far. But unlike an engine, I won't keep you in suspension. We're all here to hear him talk, so let's give him attention. You're not ready for when he starts rapping. Gonna hand the mic to Max, and I'm not talking Van Stappen.
So no movie review this week. But I can say that...
No,
yes.
No more train wreck radio.
But I can report that the F1 movie's now grossed $700 million. So
Oh, wow.
it's the highest grossing this year of any film. Anyway, in what is one of the worst kept secrets in the Formula One paddock, Cadillac F1 have now officially announced their 2026 driver lineup. They have opted for a more experienced driver pairing in Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm thinking this is a smart move by Cadillac, so they don't have their sort of Williams moment where they had some inexperienced drivers like Logan Sargent and to a lesser extent Albin binning their cars every week. So
it's a big deal for a team that's probably going to be, it's still an enormous budget, but it's going to be restricted compared to a lot of the other teams you'd think in their first years.
Yeah.
As Cadillac explores this and figures out how it's all going to work operationally. And you do see it a lot with these small teams. It was something that surprised me a lot when I first started getting into F1 properly, was how expensive those crashes are when they hit the wall and cause damage to those cars. Those can be over $1 million expenses.
Yes.
To fix those cars, and that racks up, and they do have a cost cap, and they have to be careful with how much they're spending on this stuff. So you throw some inexperienced guys in a car that might have some issues itself,
and
it can actually end up costing you more than just forking out for an experienced driver who's going to bin it less, you hope.
Yeah, exactly, and they lose valuable data and feedback too if they do crash it. So anyway, any more to add on that, Maximillian? Cadillac?
Are we sure Perez doesn't bin this though?
Oh.
Are we saying that Perez is definitely a safe pair of hands now? 'Cause I remember when he was still back at Red Bull, it was a bit dicey a few races.
To be fair though, that car's a bit hard to drive for anyone except Max Verstappen.
True.
I was going to say, in the announcement post for Sergio's signing, half the comments were like what, Mexican representation? Other half was like, oh, good luck.
Really?
So I think it will be a mixed bag of responses and support, but I think he's a solid driver to fill that seat.
Yeah. Totally.
And it seems the reports are true that Daniel Ricciardo, the Aussie, was never really in with a shot for one of those things.
No.
I don't think so.
Well, they came out and said like, we only want drivers that actually want to be on the grid.
Yeah.
In a direct slight against Ricciardo, which is
Yes.
Anyway.
He's retired, I guess.
Meanwhile, the other new team on the grid for 2026 will be called Audi or Audi. How do we want to pronounce it?
Audi.
Audi.
Okay, Audi. And they've taken over the green
You
team.
did take German lessons in high school.
Yeah, I did. I went to grade 12 in it. And the green team Sauber, so they've taken that over. Now they'll be known as Audi. And Audi did, to be fair, when they approached the Dakar race with their all-electric vehicle, it wasn't all-electric, it had an engine in it, but they said they'd win it within 3 years, and they actually ended up winning Dakar on their third time at doing so, and then pulled out of it because they'd done enough of it. And I'm thinking the German outfit will probably set themselves, say, 6 years to be at the front of the grid.
But Binotto's come out and said 5.
5, okay.
They expect to be at the pointy end by 2030.
Yeah, okay. And it should be noted that Japanese car manufacturer, like the biggest car manufacturer in the world, Toyota, set a similar goal back in 2002, and they had very little to show for it. So, yeah.
So this is where the comparison's quite interesting, because Toyota came in very much with a greenfield project.
Yes.
And it was quite top-heavy. Like, they'd always report back to head office. Whereas you've got to be a little bit more agile in Formula One. Where Audi's really smart here is they've bought an existing setup. Sure, they've installed their own technical personnel in Binotto and Jonathan Wheatley. But I think they're doing it the right way. They're actually relying on the previous success of the team. I think Sauber's always been one of those ones that, even though they've spent their entire time in the midfield, they really have been, I guess, more competitive than not. And they've also just lasted a long time, let's be honest. So I think they stand a relatively good chance. And I think 5 years is also, it's not unreasonable. I think if they said, like, with Dakar, like 3 year sort of timeline, I think in Formula One that's unrealistic.
Totally.
But 5 years, who knows?
The girls are racing this weekend, Issy?
They are. I was just doing my write-up.
Okay, I'll talk about NASCAR then.
Yes. Sorry, just being brutally honest.
So NASCAR, as we know, is the American sort of equivalent to our supercars in Australia. And SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen, former supercar champion, he's now racing for Trackhouse Racing. And he's won 4 times this year. So he goes into the playoffs. But they reckon he won't do too well on the ovals. But he was racing on the ovals at the famous Daytona circuit last Sunday morning. I was watching it. and he was had the Red Bull colours, so it was just like he was driving his V8 supercar for Red Bull, and he was out front for a few laps, and but he didn't have to prove anything. He was just motoring around to see if he could actually get to the lead, and he did. And so because he was already in the playoffs, so he had nothing to prove. And so that was exciting to watch. And also the other person who will be joining SVG next year is the young sensation by the name of Connor Zilisch, who is basically very similar to Max Verstappen. He's good at everything. He's just give him a car and he'll just put it on pole. He'll just win the race for you. And Connor's going to be joining SVG next year. So I'm hoping that there'll be sort of like a McLaren moment for Trackhouse Racing, where it'll be between Connor and Shane at the front of the field, no matter what race they're racing in. So
it'd be interesting if it went back and forth between like ovals and street circuits.
Street circuits, yeah.
Well, you know what I mean, like traditional circuits.
Yeah, road circuits, yeah. But Connor's very good on the road circuits as well. But Shane gave him a bit of a dust up in Detroit, which was pretty funny, and Connor was a bit miffed about it. But that'll come with age.
In fairness, SVG is quickly becoming just a force to be reckoned with, isn't he? All
and SVG's in his 30s, and meanwhile Connor's still in his teens. So it's a bit of a
bit of room to grow.
Yeah. Sail GP also happened a fortnight ago now in Germany. It's the first time they had raced there, so it was fitting that Sebastian Vettel's sponsored Team Germany won the first fleet race of the regatta. After that, it was Team GBR winning about 3. Australia won 1. New Zealand won 1. Switzerland won 1. And funnily enough, it was Team France, who didn't win any of the fleet races but secured enough points to go into the finals race, along with Australia and Team GBR. They won the final race, so winner takes all. On reflection, I'm thinking Team Great Britain should have won the regatta after securing the 3 fleet races wins, but due to the regatta's format, as I said, winner takes all on the final race of 3. On points now for the year, Team Australia now leads the championship, with Team New Zealand, I think, 1 point behind, and then Team GBR in 3rd. The next regatta will be in Saint-Tropez, which I think is in France. That'll happen in the next fortnight. Okay.
So what is the logic behind the winner takes all?
I don't know.
Sort of setup?
It's worked out well for Australia, though. We've collected so many $1 million victories. It's the other teams aren't too impressed. Anyway, Izzy, I've given you enough time.
Yes, you have.
It's Formula One Academy this weekend in the Netherlands.
Yes.
What do you got for us?
At Zandvoort, I believe.
Yes.
It is this weekend, and the girls will be racing. As I've said previously when covering Formula One Academy, this is the circuit many of the girls train on. So this weekend will be less about skill and knowledge, more about timing and really pushing pace. As normal, our wildcard entry for the next Formula One race will be Esme Kosterman, representing TeamViewer. The 21-year-old made her way into car racing in 2021, competed in the Ford Fiesta Sprint Cup, Benelux. She became the first woman to later win this series. She's been scoring points in her Indian F4 debut last year, and now the season has seen her race in the British F4 with appearances in Silverstone and Zandvoort as well. So this woman is going to give the girls a run for their money. So a very exciting race this weekend. She is the wild card.
Academy car before.
Yes. So they'll typically get a team sponsor, in this case TeamViewer, to sponsor these young and upcoming drivers. So what an impressive resume coming into this race. Additionally, I have some news from a familiar face to Formula One Academy. Abby Pulling, who won the 2024 championship, has secured her maiden Great Britain Formula 3 or Great Britain 3 podium in 3rd place in race 3 at Brands Hatch over the last couple of weeks. That is coming home in her home country of Britain, so that is very exciting to see her not only graduate Formula One Academy but succeed coming after that. So very exciting. So a lot to look forward to.
Not a bad circuit to win at.
No, not at all. But yes,
this weekend,
I'm so tired of doing nothing. The summer break was grueling.
Yes, right. And we also have the F1, the actual F1 happening this weekend at the same racetrack in the Netherlands. And who's going to win that?
Ooh.
I mean, Max will want to win it, clearly.
Yes.
I was going to say, no
Given it's
pressure.
his home race.
He'll probably get pole, but the car won't last,
Yeah.
will it?
Well,
It feels like a Lando circuit
It does
for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gabe, any thoughts on who's going to win this weekend? Formula One?
Nah, nothing more.
nothing.
It'll be
an
an orange car. We just don't know which one.
We feel like it, right?
Yeah, which is good because all the Dutch supporters will be wearing orange. So.
Ooh.
Lots of McLaren fans.
Setting off the orange flares.
Yes.
That'd be good. Okay.
So that's 11 p.m. this Sunday.
Cool,
Oh,
cool.
lovely.
Hey Flynn, you've subscribed to 4ZZZ for the very first time this year. Thanks so much for supporting us and keeping community radio alive. And if you'd like to subscribe, you can, for as little as $20. So go ahead and be like Flynn. Take the plunge and subscribe today.
You tune into 4ZZZ Community Radio, powered by people like me, Max, Issy, and Gabe. The show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science. What do you got for us, Gabe?
That's it. Max, I've got a study that's come out recently in the last few days about Australian teachers looking into the mental load and mental outcomes in teachers in Australia. And I just want to dive into some of the stats in this because it's fascinating work, and it's one of the most extensive studies of teacher mental health that's been done in Australia ever, I think. So it's a really cool insight into an important insight into what's going on across teachers. I think everyone's gotten the sense that teachers in the country are under a crazy amount of stress and workloads at the moment.
Yeah.
And so this is some really strong data to sort of back that up and get an idea of what's going on across the country. So it was based out of UNSW. Do you want to give me a QS ranking?
Oh, they're lower than UQ, so they're about 28. Yeah.
Well, let's go 15.
Oh,
Haha.
Yeah,
I'm on it.
20. So this study took place between 2022 and 2024, and it was done using a bunch of digital options to reach about 5,000 primary and secondary school teachers across the country. And so they used something called the DAS test. Have you heard of the DAS test before?
no.
Oh.
It is the Depression, Anxiety, Stress Scales. And it uses a whole bunch of sets of questions, self-reported data, which we have issues with
We do. Big
because
issues.
it's self-reported data. We report different stuff, often report things that are not the truth because we're not a good judge of ourselves.
Exactly.
But in this case, when you're asking teachers about their own mental health and workloads and things, it's a pretty decent thing to use. And because their sample size is so big, you've got a really good insight into what's happening across the country. It's a 42-item self-report instrument, they call it, the DAS test. And they what they found was that 90% of teachers in Australia are reporting moderate to extreme levels of stress.
Yes.
So, and more than 2/3, 68%, I think it is, experience moderate to extreme symptoms of depression and anxiety. The figures of depression and anxiety alone are more than double the national averages. And yeah, it's just crazy. Like they say it was 3 times higher for depression than national averages and nearly 4 times higher for stress. So just so much above the baseline levels, which are also very high for depression and stress across the country. But they're finding it's just massive in teachers. And they're saying, we know that these sorts of symptoms in teachers are linked to different outcomes in the classroom, obviously horrible for the teacher, but also then has impacts on the students and on the learning conditions and just on the whole schooling system gets impacted when teachers aren't doing well. So they had to look into why this was happening as well. It was quite an extensive study. They asked them about a lot. And what they came out with was that one of the biggest things that was a key factor influencing teachers' mental health was workload manageability. And they said the teachers who reported their workload as unmanageable were significantly more likely to experience the depressive symptoms, which in turn were strongly associated with their intentions to leave the profession.
Yes.
There's been previous research done that's found something like 30% of active teachers in the country are considering leaving the profession before retirement age, and often citing these sorts of issues of workload and stress and other mental health issues as a reason why. And
the really interesting thing from one of the researchers involved was he said, and I'm just going to quote him directly here, teachers are telling us they're overwhelmed not by teaching itself, but by the growing burden of non-core tasks. Administrative duties, compliance requirements, and excessive data collection are taking time away from lesson planning and student engagement. This is leading to burnout and a sense of professional disillusionment. So I think it's like a lot of things in life where we feel like the admin that's going on in the background is building up. And so it's almost like the teaching isn't the issue. It's all of the other stuff that isn't teaching that's becoming an issue for so many teachers in the primary and secondary schools that they were looking at. And so the recommendations that have come out from this big study, policy reforms to reduce non-essential workload and streamline administrative processes, school-level monitoring of teacher well-being, investment in mental health programs, and what they call system-wide interventions to support teacher retention and reduce burnout. But I think the one that is going to be takeaway for a lot of teachers, and the one that hopefully will get addressed, is the policy reforms to reduce non-essential workload, because this seems to be the thing that's come out for most of these teachers as the thing that is actually causing a lot of these issues. And then there's also, there's lots of other stuff that causes issues for teachers, but I think that's what they're recommending is the big push. And so it's really interesting to see such a massive study. Getting 5,000 teachers to take a survey like this is no small feat. That's really intensive research. And so amazing to have this sort of insight and to have this sort of data now behind showing what's going on with teachers across the country.
I think I saw a science publication do a post on Instagram about it, and people were saying, oh, they probably would have gotten more teachers, but they were so busy with their workload that they didn't have time to do the survey. Yeah. Like that.
Yes. Yeah, that's the joke, right?
Yes.
What do they find? 9 in 10 teachers say they're overworked,
teachers.
And the other 1 in 10 mustn't have had time to respond to the survey.
Yes. And I think these are concerns that have been voiced by teacher unions as well, because this all sounds familiar. This all sounds like it's adding on top of pre-existing research and lived experience from teachers who went on strike a few weeks ago, echoing the same thing. So now there's actual data behind it, which is fantastic. Yes.
And some of the parents as well, they have to deal with the parents who have high expectations for their somewhat gifted child, or so they think. Anyway, what do you got for us, Issy?
I have a bit of a fun one. Check if your cane toads are GMO free, right? Because these studies ones aren't.
We got genetically modified cane toads?
I guess. I would count them as this.
Yeah.
This research is from Macquarie University, QS ranking.
128.
Okay.
200.
Max Close, 138, and Charles Darwin University. These guys now have a proper QS ranking. It's no longer in a range.
Yeah, really?
What do we reckon?
950.
Oh, really? I'm
Charles Darwin University.
450.
584 guys. Jesus. And this study is freshly released in Proceedings of the Royal Society B, Biological Sciences Journal. So, researchers used CRISPR-Cas, which I'll get into, to challenge the assumption that albino animals are rare in nature because they stand out prominently to predators. So they created gene knockout albino cane toads, which is something I did not realize could happen, but there are photos of albino cane toads in nature, and assess their ability to compete with normally pigmented siblings, a crazy way to describe it, but very true, in the absence of predators. This is really interesting because it has opened my mind up to genetic modification, I guess, in organisms, including this thing called a gene knockout.
Organisms?
Yeah.
Organisms. Did I say it?
Yes.
No! Off air, oh my God. Do not clip that, Max. Do not clip that. Oh my God.
Keep going.
Gene knockout is a genetic engineering technique, I'm so sorry, that allows researchers to remove or inactivate specific genes in an organism's genome. And in this case, it was through the CRISPR-Cas method that I mentioned earlier, which allowed researchers to examine the amphibian's fitness when certain genes, were made inactive. So they found that when breeding cane toads in captivity, so no predators, they found that albino tadpoles and toads were ineffective competitors relative to their pigmented siblings, demonstrating that factors other than predators can explain the rarity of wild albinos. In addition to expanding this kind of scientific understanding about the so-called, like, the costs of albinism, the study demonstrates the usefulness of CRISPR gene knockouts for answering fundamental evolutionary questions. Of course, genetic modification is always a very interesting topic if you look in ethics. And whilst I was doing research for this, I found many scientific topics talking about the ethical implications of using gene knockout system or like gene knockout methods. But I find this is super interesting in looking at why this specific visual trait can have a large effect on the wider population of like albino frogs. They also found them to not only have wasn't just their fitness, it was they have a lower foraging success, were less accurate when striking at prey, and needed high light levels to forage successfully, which makes sense with albino traits. So super interesting. They've got photos attached to this study, which is super interesting to see an albino cane toad, and looking at, yes, how blindly white they are. And I imagine when cane toads are designed to blend in quite well, it will stand out quite a lot.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's this idea of using gene editing to help control invasive species is like you said, a big ethical one at the moment, and one that's going through a lot of scientific work in the background. But the CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing is incredible. Like it's what's fueling so much of the genetic work that we see headlines of at the moment, including a lot of the de-extinction stuff. It's using the Cas9 stuff is a protein from bacteria that they use it to help with their like autoimmune or immune system rather.
Yeah.
So that they sort of capture, they can use this protein to capture like a little snapshot of an invading virus or something, and then store that in their own DNA to then be able to recognize that again if it ever re-enters its system. But then humans have been able to take this and through the CRISPR-Cas9 process, we use it now. We've like cut the bacteria out, use it for our own purposes. We can now train it to look for certain pieces of genetic info, and it's how we cut out certain chunks of DNA from genomes.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of put something different nearby, and it tends to get sucked up in and replace it. So it's incredible process, and really cool to see it could be used in cases like this. Which and you'd think that hopefully just putting something into the cane toad genes that turns them white, maybe isn't going to have any other side effects. But when you're dealing with gene editing, it's so hard to figure out.
But yeah, it is really interesting contributing to this kind of wider study of why this happens in animals. And I realized it sounded familiar, and it was because a drug they used this gene editing technique to cure sickle cell disease. And then that drug, Casejuvy, recently was FDA certified in 2023. So I was like, this seems familiar. So super interesting research. So yeah, keep an eye out. Well, that was a bit rude, Max.
That was Devo, Orgasmatic.
No!
You tuned into 4ZZZ. The show is No Idea with me, Max. We got Gabe. We got Issy, hopefully. No Idea, space news. Well, it happened today. The big news on everyone's lips. Well, if you're into space news, Starship Test 10 actually flew today. It left its launch pad at 9:30 a.m. Brisbane time, and it was successful.
I was wondering what you were watching.
Yeah.
So whilst Gabe and Peter were trying to plug in their modem again to get back online, Max is kicking his feet and watching
Starship fly.
Yes.
The booster lost one of its 33 Raptor 2 engines during the ascent, but stage separation went well, and the booster made its way back to the Gulf of Mexico, where it performed a controlled hover before splashing down. Starship, meanwhile, continued on its suborbital flight, making its way to the Indian Ocean landing zone off the coast of Western Australia. After 1 hour and 7 minutes of flight time, it also performed a vertical hover and then a controlled splashdown in the Indian Ocean. So I did notice one of the flaps had a bit of material loss, if you could say. So it'd be interesting if they can actually grab that booster, not the booster, the Starship, and bring it back to shore and have a good look at it. Because the main thing they want to fix are the heat tiles, and clearly that flap needed some more heat tiles on it. Okay, and a fun fact, if the sun was the size of a beach ball, Jupiter would be no bigger than a golf ball, and the Earth would be the size of a pea. Job done.
Yeah, right.
Interesting. What happened to the X-37A?
Well,
We don't talk about that?
Asking the big questions.
Yeah, there's just a red dot on my head as you talking.
never gets tired, that. Anyway,
Nope.
The X-37B is the mini space shuttle built by Boeing. And it's back in the air. It's back orbiting Earth. A Falcon 9 rocket took it up there. We don't know what its mission is. It's usually pretty stealthy, but we'll see what happens. And finally, Apollo 14 mission, which happened back in 1971. Now, Anthony the accountant, who hosts Balls in the Air every Saturday from 9 till 10 a.m, reminded me of this fun fact. Did you know that there are 2 golf balls on the moon, both hit by Commander Alan Shepard on February 6, 1971, as part of the Apollo 14 mission? Alan Shepard was 47 at the time, and he still remains the oldest person to have ever walked on the moon.
Did anyone measure how far they went?
Yes, I think it was like
with such little gravity.
200 metres and 400 metres, or 200 yards and 400 yards.
Is that the longest drive ever made?
On the moon? Possibly. I don't know.
Ever?
No, I don't know. Sorry. Yeah, I haven't.
We've got to look that up.
I'll have to ask.
Surely, with the gravity assist, you'll be.
Yes.
There's a good chance.
But you know who is also in their 40s at the moment, soon to be turning 50? Gabe, any thoughts?
Is it 4ZZZ?
It is 4ZZZ. And to keep us going to 50 and beyond, to infinity, you can subscribe by going to our website at 4zzz.org.au/support. If you're under 18, it's $25. If you're a pet, $25. Concession, $40. A full is $80. If you want to be a passionate subscriber like me, it's $140. Or a super sub like Bones, it's $500. Anything
And
more?
a little earlier in August, we had our Radiothon special. The sort of week and a half where the station turns up and we try. We ask you to resubscribe or start subscribing to 4ZZZ to quite literally keep us on air. And in the afterglow of that, the tail end of it, we keep there's prizes that are up for grabs during the main deal that you can go into the running to win when you subscribe. There's a couple that have been kept open for the next little while, for a few more days.
Yeah.
So the Triffid Golden Ticket is still there.
Yeah,
the Netherworld Games Cabinet and Treasure Trove is still there. And the 5-star Cinema Golden Ticket are still there. So if you subscribe in the next few days, you can go into the running to win those prizes that have been amazingly, generously donated. And we can offer them off. So you pick one when you subscribe that you want to go into the running for. And they get drawn. Do we do a hat still? Is that still a thing?
I think so. I also want to say we have announced another golden ticket as well. The 4ZZZ 50th birthday golden ticket, where a winner and a friend can go into every remaining event part of the birthday celebrations. So you better clear out your schedule from September to December because, baby, we have plenty of gigs going on. So don't you worry. 4ZZZ.org.au/support. I better watch what I say now, apparently. So head there.
Sign us out, Gabe.
That is all we have time for. We'll be back in your ears same time next week. Between now and then, leave the defensive defecation to sperm whales. Be careful looking up while at sea. Keep your eyes peeled for albino cane toads and never ask about the X-37A. You can listen back to all of those stories and our other shows on the 4ZZZ.org.au website or our podcast. Just search up No Idea 4ZZZ, no with a K. I still think we're maintaining that flat 5-star rating, Max.
I think we
Equal
are.
highest rated podcast in the world on Spotify and Apple.
And we'll speak to you next week.
See ya.
See ya.
I'm a goddamn marvel of modern science.